calcium-rich diet. How to get enough calcium while on a plant-based diet. I'm a lifestyle physician and I'm the co-founder of nutritionscience.in, which is an online learning platform for plant-based nutrition, and Sampurna Ahara, which is India's first whole food plant-based social enterprise. So let's talk about calcium. You think calcium? The first thing that comes to mind is milk, dairy products, milk, curds, cheese. We've been taught since our childhood that these foods have tons of calcium in them. And that's true, they do have a lot of calcium. So when you think about going plant-based, the immediate fear is, when I stop eating dairy products, am I not going to lose out on all that calcium? How do I replace that with plant-based sources? Well, there are two things here. Number one is dairy products may not be such a good source of calcium in the first place because they also cause a lot of other issues which I'll be talking about. And number two, think about, where do the cows get their calcium from? They don't drink milk. What do they eat? We'll get back to that a little later. So let's talk about milk. Yes, milk has calcium, which is fantastic for calves, which is human milk having calcium is fantastic for human babies when they're growing in the first 6 months of their life. But after that, not necessarily. So when adult human beings like you and me, when we drink milk, what happens is the calcium from the milk, it gets absorbed into the body, into the bloodstream, and then it gets stuck there in the bloodstream. A majority of the calcium never makes its way to the bones. The reason for this is the animal protein in the milk stays in the blood, making the blood a little more acidic than normal. To buffer this acid, the calcium is used as a buffer, and then it just stays there in the milk to make sure, stays there in the blood to make sure that the blood doesn't turn too acidic for too long. And then from there, it makes its way down to the kidneys through the blood itself. The kidneys filter out the calcium. So you drink milk today, tomorrow morning you test your urine, you might find calcium in it. That calcium, we used to think that this is because milk makes your calcium leach from your bones, but that's not true. It's just that the calcium in milk doesn't make its way to the bones. It gets filtered out by the kidneys before it gets a chance to get deposited in the bones, most of it. So that's number one. Number two, milk also has a lot of other nutrients that may not be very healthy for us. Like for example, milk has a sugar called galactose, and research has shown that the more galactose we consume from milk, the greater our risk is for developing chronic diseases, the greater our risk of fractures, the greater our risk of heart disease, and of so many other chronic conditions. So there are babies who have been born with a genetic deficiency to process this particular sugar, and they start developing these problems at a very young age. Right? And because of that, researchers thought that, okay, maybe it's not so good for normal people as well who have this enzyme. It's still not very good for us, and research has shown that that's true. Milk also has an enzyme called IGF-1, which is insulin-like growth factor 1, which is fantastic for a small baby calf to grow into a 100 kg cow within a matter of 6 months. But when we consume it, when human beings, especially adults, when we consume it, then it triggers cancer growth in the body. It increases the progression of cancer. That's not a good thing. And researchers found that people who are born with a genetic deficiency of this enzyme of IGF-1, they experience a form of dwarfism. They don't grow too tall. But at the same time, they appear to be immune from cancer. Not even one of them has ever developed cancer until today. So we know that IGF-1 is associated with a higher risk of cancer, and consuming more milk can increase our blood levels of IGF-1, leading to a higher risk of cancer. Milk also contains cholesterol, it contains trans fat. When I read that curd rice could have trans fat in it, I was surprised, but it occurs naturally in dairy products. So what we learned is milk, the calcium in milk may not actually get deposited in the bones. strong enough for us to use it significantly, and and it may have many other side effects as well, especially when adult human beings consume milk. And when you stop consuming animal products, something interesting happens, something surprising happens. Your requirement for calcium actually goes down. You don't seem to need to eat as much calcium just to get enough that you need. For example, if you consume milk, if you're a vegetarian, like I was until I learned about plant-based nutrition, you need to eat about 1200 milligrams of calcium a day, right? And I'm not talking about pregnancy or lactation, I'm talking about normal healthy adults, apart from these stages of life. So 1200 milligrams of calcium a day. But when you go vegan, when you stop eating animal products, when you eliminate your intake of the animal protein, your need for calcium drops to about 50%. You only need about 600 milligrams of it, because more of it gets deposited in your bones, more of it gets used, and that makes it so much easier. So when you're on a vegan diet or when you're on a whole food plant-based diet, your need to think about calcium is reduced to half. Okay. Now, how do we get that half? What are calcium-rich foods? Now, think about it. Milk has calcium. Milk comes from cows. What do the cows eat? Cows eat grass. They don't drink milk. They eat grass. They eat green leafy vegetables. They eat rice bran, oil cakes. They eat nuts and seeds. They eat hay. Foods that come from green leafy vegetables, whole grains, pulses, legumes and nuts. These are the highest sources of calcium. So in a way, it's like you take all the calcium from your rice, which originally had calcium, remove the bran, give the calcium to the cows, and then drink the milk saying that milk has calcium in it. Instead of doing that, you can simply eat brown rice, red rice, ragi, millets, which originally have calcium in them and are going to have fantastic health benefits for your body overall as well. So what are the foods that are high in calcium and how do we eat them? And what about calcium supplements? Let's talk about those as well. Now, if you are deficient in calcium, if you have a vitamin D deficiency, and if you have a calcium deficiency, if you have osteoporosis, osteopenia, then calcium supplements may help you to get your calcium levels back up in a short span of time. But apart from that one particular scenario, for anyone else, when you consume calcium supplements, something a little unpleasant happens. I'll tell you what that is. So in nature, when you're eating calcium-rich foods, the calcium gets absorbed slowly over a long period of time. Like you eat calcium-rich foods for lunch, let's say you eat some chickpeas or chana for lunch, right? Chana has a good amount of calcium in it. So you eat a chana sabji for lunch or a chana masala for lunch, and that calcium is going to get absorbed over the next 6 to 8 hours, slowly, little by little by little. Right? But if you take a calcium supplement, a tablet, right, that has calcium in it, even though that calcium may have come from natural sources into that tablet, when you take it in tablet form, your blood levels of calcium instantly shoot up, right? And they stay elevated for the next 6 hours, which is unnatural, which doesn't happen when you eat food. Right? When you eat food, it's a very slow rise and then it comes back to normal. But tablets, which is sharp rise, it stays up, and then it stays up for the next 6 hours. So when that happens, when your blood levels of calcium go up, your body enters something called a hypercoagulable state, which means your the ability of the blood to clot significantly increases. Your blood clots a lot faster than normal, which means you're at a higher risk of diseases involving blood clotting, which also happen to be the top killers in India, like heart disease, like certain forms of stroke, deep vein thrombosis. These diseases have a higher impact, a higher risk of happening during this hypercoagulable state. So eating calcium supplements, except if you are in severe deficiency and dietary calcium is insufficient to help you to overcome that risk, eating calcium supplements may not be a very good idea for the common man. So where do you get your calcium from? You get it from the original food sources of calcium, where the animals get their calcium from, animals like us. For example, green leafy vegetables. Greens are a fantastic way of getting your calcium. They are stuffed with calcium, so many of them, so many varieties of them, and you can make so many different dishes from them as well. So there is one thing to remember when it comes to greens and calcium. There are, while many greens may have a lot of calcium, like palak has a lot of calcium in it, but palak is not a very good dietary source of calcium. This is because palak contains something called oxalates. Now, oxalates are naturally occurring substances, but what they do is they reduce the body's ability to absorb calcium from a particular food. They bind the calcium and they keep it safe, right? So when you eat food, when you eat greens such as palak or amaranthus greens, green or red amaranthus greens, because of their oxalate content, you are not able to absorb a lot of their calcium. So these two greens are not good sources of calcium. They're still great. They're absolutely healthy greens to eat. They have a wide range of other health benefits, but just not so great for calcium. All of the other greens, however, are fantastic, like methi leaves, for example, or turnip greens. Right? Methi leaves are fantastic sources of calcium. So you can, chop them up, put them in a roti dough, make methi parathas, methi rotis. You can make methi dosa. You can make methi idlis. You can actually, so in North Karnataka, there is a delicious methi leaves salad. I was also surprised when I heard about it for the first time. I was like, that's going to be bitter, but it's actually not. It's quite delicious. And it's like putting jeera tadka. Jeera is a little bitter, right? But when you put it as a seasoning on a food, it actually tastes so much fantastic. I mean, it just tastes so much more fantastic. You use kasuri methi in a dal, makes it taste rich and delicious. You put methi seeds in idli, it gives it that slight edge over every other idli. So, methi leaves salad, they make it with cucumbers, raw onions, methi leaves, lightly roasted peanuts, and some chilies. And that's about it. Put some lemon juice on top and you're good to go. Fantastic, delicious salad. You just need to chop it up and put it in that setting, nothing more. Right? And it's absolutely delicious to eat. And you can use it in as part of your sabjis, as part of your palyas or vegetable stir fries. Just take whatever vegetable you're making, cook it until it's about 70-80% done. Then chop up some methi leaves, put it in and cook it for the last few minutes and you're good to go. You can use it even in sambar, for example. You want to make a mixed vegetable sambar, you put some methi leaves in that. So tomorrow, for example, at the Sampurna Ahara kitchen, we have a special methi sabji that we are making. So this is not a vegetable sabji that has methi added to it. This is a sabji where methi is like the star of the dish. It's called Methi Matwadi Palya. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. It's Matwadi or Matwadi, I'm not sure. It's a Kannada name. Where it's basically a methi and lentil crumble. So normally this dish is made with plenty of oil. The lentils are like deep fried in a lot of oil and then crumbled. But we're making it zero oil. I'll tell you how we're making this dish, right? So you take methi leaves and then you lightly put a little bit of water and just take plain pan, a thick bottom pan if you like, a little bit of water, put the methi leaves in, saute them for a bit and then take them out. Okay? If you want, you can saute them until they are dry. That gives you the best effect. But make sure you don't overcook them. They shouldn't get too dark and dull. Take them out when they're still bright green. Okay? And then take some lentils or pulses or legumes, any dals that you like. You can use chana dal, you can use moong dal, tur dal, which is what is normally traditionally used for this dish. Or if you want lentils and legumes that are extremely rich in calcium, you can go for chana and soya beans. Right? Just soak chana and soya beans overnight and then grind them up with some water. That's it. Okay? And then there are two ways in which you could make it. One is you could just mix them with a lot of water, put it on the stove and slowly stir and cook until it becomes nice and thick, and then continue stirring until it starts becoming a little dry and crumbly. But this is the tough method, right? This is the one where they use plenty of oil to avoid it sticking and to make it easier to stir. If you want to go for the easy method, then just make idlis from it. Super simple, super easy. Take your idli vessel, right? Pour this lentil batter into those idlis. You can put whatever spices you want in it before that, like put some red chili powder, some turmeric, some methi seeds if you like, some jeera seeds, cumin seeds. You can put some, say, some sambar powder if you just want to put everything, or some dhania powder, or any spices that you like, right? And then you make idlis out of it, steam it until it's fully cooked. Take the idlis out, cool them down, and then this is the fun part. You take like half an idli to one idli at a time, put it in your small mixie, the one that you use to make chutneys and masalas. Put it in that mixie, break the idli like into 4 or 5 pieces with your hand and just put it in and pulse the mixie. Don't put it on one or two, that will just make it a goo, right? Don't put it on one or two, just pulse the mixie until the idli is completely broken up. You can even do this by hand, but it doesn't happen as fine. You want it to be really soft and melt in the mouth. The mixie method works great. So just pulse it until it becomes a fine powder, and then mix it with the methi leaves. That's it, you're done. You can add some miso paste to make it taste salty, or if you've already added soya beans in the mix, then just add a little bit of salt in it. Add a dash of lemon juice on top, add some coriander leaves on top of it for a garnish, and that's it, you're done. Delicious methi matwadi palya, which is so yummy. I'm looking forward to enjoying it tomorrow morning. And if any of you want to taste it, you can actually order one meal on Sampurna Ahara. You can order just this meal alone. It's there on the menu. You can go to sampurnahara.com, click on meals in the menu, and then select the option that says order now, instant delivery. So there you will find the balanced Karnataka meal or the South Indian meal for lunch. That one has the Methi Matwadi Palya in it. So check it out if you want to try it. I'm definitely looking forward to trying it. And that's how you make it at home as well if you like. Okay, now moving on to the lentils, legumes, pulses. Now these foods, especially chana and soya beans, have lots of calcium in them. So you can use them as probably something that you're already doing is using them in your sambar, in your dals, in your chutneys, and that's absolutely great. You can just continue doing that, but make sure you do it at every meal. So another thing that's special about tomorrow's meal, right? When you look at what is the meal in which this type of methi matwadi palya is prepared, any palya that has a lot of dal in it is typically not served with sambar, which also has a lot of dal. So they're not served together, right? They are served when you make rasam or when you make a chutney with rice, right? At that day, when you're making rasam with rice, or when you're making, say, majige holi with rice, basically a side dish for rice that does not have too much of dal in it, on those days, the lentils are used in the vegetable preparation. So that way you make sure that you have plenty of lentils, legumes, pulses on a daily basis at every meal without missing it out on any days. Right? So if you don't have it in the vegetable dish, then you make a sambar, or you make a rasam which has lots of dal in it, a dal rasam, parapu rasam, or you make a chutney that also has a lot of dal in it, or you could make a peas palya. There is a delicious Manipuri dish called uti, which one of my classmates, Dr. Roshni, introduced me to. I absolutely loved it. Loved the taste of peas, and this dish is just peas, right? Just peas with some onion, garlic, some chili, and a few spices, and that's it. Cooked in a cooker, and it's ready in minutes. It's super simple, super easy to make. You can even make a sundal or usli with the chana, soya beans, or other lentils, legumes, and pulses, and those are absolutely delicious as well. Okay. And you can also get calcium from whole grains like red rice, like ragi. Ragi has plenty of calcium. And now, how do you use ragi? You grind it up coarsely so that it doesn't spike your blood sugar when you eat it. You grind it up coarsely, and then there are so many different preparations you can make from it, like ragi mudde, which is the farmer's food in Karnataka. Ragi mudde is basically just ragi flour cooked with water, until it becomes, gritty or hard enough to be shaped into a ball, and then you eat it with your saru, you eat it with your sambar. Now, the traditional way of eating ragi mudde is you take, a chunk of it, a mouthful of it, take a little bit of the sambar, and you don't chew it, you just swallow it. Now, why do you do this? Why do you not chew your food? That goes against a lot of things that we think. You need to chew your food to get healthy. But this particular dish, because it's made from ragi flour, if you chew it, it's going to get digested very quickly in the stomach, and that's going to spike up your blood sugar levels. So traditionally, you don't chew ragi mudde, and one health benefit associated with that is it takes a longer time for it to digest. So the blood sugar spike, instead of spiking up like this, it's going to go smooth, steady curve up and then come back to normal, right? So you can make other dishes also. You can make ragi dosa, you can make ragi rotis. So the trick to making ragi dosa is actually nothing, just comes out really well. There is no trick to it. The trick to making ragi rotis is if you just mix it with water like wheat flour, then it'll get stuck to your hands. You may not be able to roll it out easily. So the trick to doing that is to mix your ragi flour with piping hot water, boiling water. Boil water on the stove, put your ragi flour in it and mix it up. Make something similar to a ragi mudde first, right? And then you roll out your rotis from that dough which has been mixed with hot water. So when you mix your ragi flour in hot water, two things happen. One is the dough itself becomes a little more well bound together, so it doesn't get sticky and come off as you roll it out and shape it out into a roti. So that's fantastic. The other health benefit that happens is it gets slightly cooked, right? And then when you cool it down, some amount of the starch gets converted into something called resistant starch. Resistant starch means it's resistant to digestion in your stomach. It doesn't get digested. It goes all the way to your intestine, where your gut microbiome, your good gut bacteria, they feast on it, and then they release phytonutrients for you to absorb from that ragi. So that's a bonus. You cook the ragi first with some water, and then you cool it down, and then make rotis from it and eat it. You're getting a double benefit of calcium and fiber to have, and resistant starch for better gut health and more steady blood sugar levels. Okay. Now, where else do you get calcium from? Finally, you get calcium from nuts and seeds. For example, black till is one of the highest sources of calcium in the plant kingdom. Now, when you process the black till into white till, it loses a lot of its calcium. So white till is not a very good source, but black till, that's a fantastic source. And how do you eat black till? You can eat it in a huge number of ways. You can grind it up, lightly toast it, not, don't roast it too much till it becomes brown, because that's unhealthy. That leads to the formation of AGEs, which may be carcinogenic. So very mildly toast it, or just soak it in water and then grind it up. You can put it in your, your pakoda batter, which you bake and not fry. Your baked vada batters, you can put some in your idli, some dosa. You can make your chutney pudi from it. You can make, it'll be slightly bitter, so just keep that in mind when you're making your dishes. Add it with some other nuts and seeds, and then you're good to go. There is a delicious a Konkan drink called Tila Udhak, which is basically like half a spoon of black till, a little bit of coconut, and some dates which are soaked overnight. Grind all of these up with a glass of water. It's a delicious summer drink. If you haven't tried it yet, you have to try it out tomorrow. It's absolutely fantastic. Little pinch of cardamom on top, or put some saffron in if you want it to be really royal. It's delicious. So try it out and let me know how it is in the comments of this video on YouTube, right? And of course, the most popular way of eating black till is the yellurunde, which is a delicious laddu, which is usually made with black till and jaggery. But the problem with that is jaggery causes blood sugar spikes because it's a zero fiber food. It is extracted from sugarcane. When you make sugarcane juice from sugarcane, it loses its fiber, and then even sugarcane juice can lead to blood sugar spikes. So anything you make from it, like jaggery or sugar, can also cause blood sugar spikes. So now how do you make til laddu? You make it using whole food sweeteners or healthy sweeteners. For example, you could use blackstrap molasses. So blackstrap molasses are what is left after sugar is removed from jaggery. So how do they make it? They make sugarcane juice. They boil until you get jaggery, and then they centrifuge the jaggery and crystallize the sugar, and they remove the sugar from it, right? And what's left after you remove sugar from jaggery, that's called blackstrap molasses. So you can get blackstrap molasses, you can use it to make your til laddus, or an even easier way is to simply use dates, raisins and other dry fruits. Figs, for example, are also a fantastic source of calcium. So til, figs and dates, triple whammy. You can just grind them up together in your mixie. Make sure to use the pulse mode so your mixie doesn't get ruined, right? The pulse mode, and it works really well. Small quantities at a time make delicious til laddus from it. We also have these on Sampurna Ahara. Nice thunder outside. I'm not sure if you can hear that, but the weather's been so much better since it got a little colder from the summer heat, right? So til laddus on Sampurna Ahara, you can go to the treats section and then select sugar-free sweets, and there one of the sweets you'll find is the yellunde or the til laddus. And they are made with black til, they have some other nuts and seeds in it, and they have dates to sweeten it instead of sugar. So it's 100% whole food plant-based. It's fantastic, delicious. And I guess that's my preferred source of calcium, apart from the meals that we get from Sampurna Ahara every day for lunch and for dinner. So in a nutshell, that's how you get enough calcium on a plant-based diet. You eat greens, you eat dals and legumes, you eat nuts and seeds, whole grains, and that's more than enough to get all the calcium that you need without the harmful side effects that come from consuming dairy products, and while enjoying the fantastic health benefits of whole plant foods. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, make sure to hit the like button below. And if you found it useful, and please feel free to share it with someone in your friends or family who may also find it useful. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to get notified when we go live next tomorrow evening, and we're going to be talking about plant-based nutrition and how to make it easier for you and your family to eat healthy every day. And for those of you who would like to visit our websites, we will put the links to both our websites, nutritionscience.in and sampurnahara.com, in the description of this video. So in a few minutes, you'll be able to scroll down and just click those links and visit our websites directly from there. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I wish you a great day ahead in the best of health. Be blessed.